To introduce his question.
Thank you, This question relates to the countries with which we have a bilateral arrangement in pursuing their case for pensions or entitlements where there's contributions are based in more than one jurisdiction, and the need for the department in this case to play a leading role. Otherwise, the constituents who may fall into this category may take a long time to have the case processed.
2 minutes.
I know it's an issue that we exchange correspondence, I suppose, weekly on it. In relation to the general EU regulations governing interoperability of social welfare between the 28 member states of the EU, Ireland has concluded 10 bilateral agreements on social security with countries including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Quebec, Switzerland, the USA, South Korea and Japan. The agreements are limited to certain social welfare benefits that are mostly pension related. And in considering the needs to negotiate a bilateral social security agreement, priority is given to countries with which there are the highest levels of worker migration and countries in which Ireland has the greatest economic interest. And the nature of the scope of the social security system operation in that country is also another significant consideration. The main purpose of these agreements is to protect the pension rights of people who have worked and paid social security contributions in Ireland and the countries with which Ireland has had or has such agreements. And this is achieved by allowing reckonable social security contributions paid in one or more of these countries to be aggregated with the full rate of social insurance contribution in Ireland for the purpose of purposes of qualifying for certain contributory payments in Ireland or indeed in those countries. Liaison arrangements are in place with the relevant authorities of the countries with which Ireland has a social security agreement, and the transmission or request for information in order to compile the full extent of the claims insurance record, and they're underpinned by legislation. And if the Deputy is referring to a particular case, you might give me the details and we'll see if we can resolve an issue if an issue exists.
First question.
Thank the Minister for her reply. I think there's an increasing evidence of, particularly in relation to the dealings with the UK, where previously our department here actually pursued the application as if it were in this jurisdiction. I think that was very satisfactory, and I would ask that in the present circumstances the Minister might consider ensuring that our department played the lead role and pursued it to the extent that a satisfactory conclusion in relation to entitlements was achieved, particularly in some cases where a suggestion has been made that where an entitlement arose in both jurisdictions and where the division of responsibilities took place and entitlements as well took place, there seems to be an arbitrary attitude in the other jurisdiction, which we need to contest vigorously, because the people concerned made pension contributions in the UK to which they are entitled to recompense by way of pension.
Minister.
Yeah, it's with regard to the preparations for Brexit, I think, is in particular you're talking about, and the security of the CTA. Just for the record of the House, I met with Esther McVey many months ago, at the beginning of 2019, when she was the Minister for Work and Pensions. Subsequently, both of our departments have been in constant negotiations and discussions with regard to preparations for the variety of options that are available that will happen between the United Kingdom and the EU27 come March. I've recently been in contact with Amber Rudd, who now, as you know, is the new Work and Pensions Minister, but we are working together with a view of establishing a bilateral agreement under the auspices of the CTA, and that will replace the current working relationship that we've enjoyed under EU Regulations 883. And I think it's anticipated that existing rights and arrangements that we have enjoyed for many years will continue to be enjoyed by both the Irish and the British living in both of our respective countries going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, Deputy John Burton's question, Deputy Willie Penrose.
Minister, a significant concern has been expressed about the number of civil and public servants who have to resort to seeking to rely upon the work and family payment, and would you agree that this is a significant pointer to the inadequacy of the current wage levels and the current wage structures, that they have to so rely upon this payment?
2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Working family payment is an in-work support which provides an income top-up for employees on low earnings who have children. And the working family payment is designed to prevent in-work poverty for low-paid workers with children, to offer them a financial incentive to take up unemployment. At the end of November 2018, which are our latest figures, Deputy, working family payment was in payment to 3,229 civil and public servants. And the information available to our department doesn't allow me to distinguish between the two to give you a breakdown, but it's 3,229. There were 86 members of the Defence Forces in receipt of working family payment at the end of November. In total, working family payment was paid to 53,384 employees at the end of November 2018 in the entire country, supporting over 120,000 children, and the expenditure on the scheme to that date in 2018 was €380 million. The estimated expenditure for 2018 in totality is €411 million. At the end of 2017, working family payment was made to 57,714 employees, and the expenditure for 2017 was estimated at €415 million, just in and around the same. And at the end of last year, Deputy, there were 104 Defence Forces employees in receipt of working family payment, so it is coming down. The number of Defence Forces families in receipt of working family payment at the end of December 2017 was 104, and there were 86 Defence Force families in receipt of working family payment at the end of November 2018.
Penrose.
Well, obviously, there's 3,229 civil and public servants, and that obviously indicates that the inadequacy of their current wage levels and wage structures that they have to resort to this. And thankfully, it is there. I'd just like to know how much is actually allocated. Those 300, you're talking about 400 and odd million to the end of the year for the whole cohort of people who rely upon. How much is actually devoted to the civil and public services who have to rely upon them? 86 members of the Defence Forces, the Minister will be aware there's a significant campaign because the level of pay for the Defence Forces is abysmal. It's actually insulting to people who give their lives and put themselves on the line to protect our country and indeed to do excellent work abroad. And very often, only for the overseas payment to get, they would be below poverty levels. So this is an extremely important issue. But nevertheless, you say there's only 86 members of the Defence Forces who have applied. And clearly, it was all indicated to us, and I'm sure other deputies agree, that there was a significant amount more but than that who were qualifying. So I suppose that's some relief, but nevertheless it cannot disguise the fact that the members of the Defence Forces, whom I'm very familiar with, are certainly the people who have suffered significantly, and both in terms of pay and allowances, and that's why they have to resort to this. But Minister, in this context, how much have you provided for in 2019 for these payments, and do you see that number continuing to reduce, particularly in the context where you say that there was a reduced number of Defence Force personnel seeking the payment?
Too generous with time.
Sorry, thank you, Deputy. First of all, I'm not sure that more than 86 families would have applied, just so if that's the impression I gave you, that there were other people who have applied and didn't receive it. I'm not sure that that's what I was saying. There are currently 86 people, workers in the Defence Forces currently in receipt of it at the end of November. But I also would have to tell you that the rates of pay in any particular public sector occupation are not set by reference to the size of that particular person's family, whereas obviously working family payment is a scheme that's particularly designed to help people with families, and indeed particularly larger families. So it's not the case that every job at every level I suppose is designed, even though it potentially should be, but it's not designed to provide sufficient remuneration to sustain larger families, because otherwise I think probably labour costs, particularly for public services, might become prohibitive. What I would say to you is that I don't have the exact number for the fund for 2019, but I would expect it to be higher, given that we made extra disregards and changes to it in the budget. But I'll come back to you later on today with the exact figure of what's in the outturns for 2019.
I
take your point, but Minister, wouldn't you agree that, if people are in that situation, and it's great to have a family payment, because I remember being reared myself with 10 children, or the eldest of 10. There was nothing like this, no safety net at all. So at least I welcome that. But Minister, isn't it indicative, though? I mean, if people can't rear a family on the level of wages they have, and sure, they have no chance at all of trying to secure a mortgage or pay a mortgage or anything else. So it's kind of a circular argument here, and it's something that has to be recognised as the economy improves. The pay and conditions of those public and civil servants, and particularly the Defence Forces, and the allowances for the Defence Forces will have to be addressed in any forthcoming negotiation and review of payments.
Short response, Minister.
Obviously, I would agree with you, Deputy. In a world where any man and woman goes out to work, they should be able to earn enough money to sustain a family. But the point I was making, maybe probably very clumsily, is that when we sit down in negotiations with the public sector, we don't sit down and denote, what a nurse should be paid if she has 2 children, 4 children or 10 children. The salary is the salary. But that's why it's more important that we have payments with extra and added disregards, such as the working family payments, so that when it was established by the former Fianna Fáil government and obviously then changed and modified in the last number of years, it's definitely a worthwhile support. I know we wish we didn't need it. I know we wish everybody went to work and earned as much as they needed to provide for themselves. But until that day and until we have that utopia, I think the working family payment in all of its guises, I think, is very, very important.